Aloha everyone, and welcome to this workshop on tutoring methods, how to wear different hats. So let's get started by talking a little bit about why tutoring methods are so important. There's two particular reasons that I feel tutoring methods are important. The first is that tutoring methods really enable student learning. Integrating tutoring methods within your tutoring sessions really, I think, seems to help students in understanding and really grasping problems or concepts or information. So I do really feel that tutoring methods help to enable student learning. The second reason is to be effective, tutoring methods should be used and adjusted to the learning style and needs of a student. So we all know that there's different learning styles and different learning needs. And so we need to be able to discern what the student's needs are and then appropriately utilize a tutoring method to best meet those needs. Now let's look into detail about the 6 different tutoring methods. The first method is the ally method. Now within this method, it really seeks to replicate sort of a friend who's supporting a learner that maybe is having some difficulties, whether the learner is stressed or overwhelmed or just really unsure. We want to focus on offering sympathy, encouragement, and helpfulness when working with students who seem to really just need a friend to support them as they work through a difficult problem, concept, or maybe even crafting an essay. Some strategies associated with this method are to explain concepts, problems, or material in simple terms, so we really don't want to overwhelm the student with really complex information. Another thing to do is to understand the learner's situations and needs. I really think that utilizing the 3-step process in identifying learner needs at the start of a tutoring session is especially essential when implementing the ally method. And when questioning the student, I feel like it's really important to utilize the phrase, "I wonder." I think that this phrase in particular is a bit non-threatening and a bit more sympathetic and easy on the ears. So you're really kind of just wondering in a sense. And I think that this ideally helps put students in a more comfortable or not as overwhelmed state of mind when receiving questions from a tutor. The next method is the mini counselor method. This method entails really listening to the concerns and issues from a learner, such as maybe they're having issues with motivation or perhaps challenges with time management. An element of listening and understanding a learner's situation is really necessary, and so strategies include being an active listener and also being sympathetic to the learner's situation. However, please note that if a student's situation seems to be pretty serious or way more than you can handle, definitely refer the student to Dr. Stephen Takeda, who is our UH West Oahu clinical psychologist. Another tutoring method is the Collaborator Method. Now this method entails sharing ideas and discussing content in detail with a learner. However, with this method, there are a couple strategies to keep in mind. Really be careful about over-talking. You want to ensure the student is doing more talking than you, or that you are equally adding to the conversation with the learner. I think that if the tutor begins talking more than the student within the session, this can lead to, laziness, where the learner thinks that they can just come in every time to see a tutor and get spoon-fed information. It could also lead to confusion, where the tutor is, presenting the learner with all of this information and the learner then becomes totally confused. Or there might be a lack of control on part of the tutee, where they're not really able to, input or give their input to the tutor. So some strategies to utilize are questioning, and I think this is really important. Active questioning in a session utilizing the collaborator method is important to avoid non-engagement from the learner or tutee, right? So those are some strategies to think about when utilizing this method. A fourth method is the commentator method. Now this method really describes the entire process and progress of the learner, but also keeping in mind the bigger picture. So really within this method you want to remind the learner of the overall goal or their overall objective. An example of this might be reminding a student of their overall essay assignment, especially if they're just kind of getting really tied down to one particular paragraph that they can't seem to get over. Or reminding a business student how a financial plan ultimately impacts the overall workings of a business rather than maybe just a particular area. Also, when thinking about exam prep and working with students on exam prep, if the exam is a cumulative exam, you want to help the student to maybe move away from looking at just a specific area in the course, but also look at sort of the larger material that was covered within the course to best help them succeed within that exam. A couple of strategies, again, are utilizing questions that focus on connecting the smaller parts or the more specific aspects of a problem or concept with the larger project or the larger concepts, or maybe even the bigger picture of the assignment or course in general. So those are a couple strategies to think about when utilizing the commentator method. Our fifth method is the learner method. Now this method really focuses on sitting back and allowing the student to explain topics or perspectives. This method is kind of neat because it allows the learner to gain confidence in material or clarifying ideas or maybe becoming more aware of areas that they're really unsure about. Some strategies when using this method are questions should be methodological to assist the learner in considering maybe a higher order of explanations or perspectives. Now our last tutoring method is the coach method, not the ally method. I apologize for that. This method suggests guiding the session through observation and evaluation rather than active participation. So this involves making comments on a student's work or giving options for accomplishing tasks or maybe approaching problems and explaining information, maybe like the use of a semicolon or how to divide some type of fraction. Some strategies for this include making, again, comments on a student work or really helping to approach a problem in a specific way. When using this method, questions should be actively used again within this session because you're really helping to coach the learner or tutee through the session. So ultimately, those are our 6 tutoring methods. Of course, there's different variations of all 6, and a tutor might be asked to utilize one or even all 6 within a tutoring session. So these methods are very dynamic and they're very fluid. And that's about it in covering the different tutoring methods and why they're important and also how to develop them or utilize them within a tutoring session. Thanks, guys!